gaming, a hobby so common nowadays, and I'd argue it's more mainstream than it ever has been before. And with GTA 6 on the rise, people are just gnawing to get their chance at their game. People are going to be playing this game, calling from work. This game will have a chokehold on the world for a while until people get it finished. But since we're waiting, I want to talk about the prior years of gaming, or more or less 2025, the one we just wrapped up with. And yes, I know this video is a little late. We're about 2 months into 2026. And, well, it's been, let's say, last time I did this was 2023. And you're probably asking, Mr. Wind, why didn't you do 2024? Because, quite frankly, 2024 did not exist. Yeah, that's right, the year was fake. Get over that. Jokes aside. Not joke. Maybe. Here's my actual list of 2024. If you want to know why I didn't do 2024 as the year for that video, just go watch the prior video that I made called an announcement that explains why I wasn't doing the stuff that I was. We're not going to get to that. I want to talk about 2025. I think one of my favorite years for gaming ever. There was so much to go around. Some of my favorite games of all time came out that year, and I am just so ecstatic to see what 2026 comes with. I cannot put into words how excited I am for this year. But that being said, and enough of my chittering and chattering, let's go into my top 5 games of 2025, and feel free to comment yours. That being said, let's get into this.
Heaven is a trip.
Might I mention before I go into the 5th spot of this list that I didn't play as many games as I wanted to in 2025. Just for the sole fact is that gaming is getting more and more expensive by the day goes on, and I have to kind of be selective with what I spend, and I don't exactly have a source of income since I'm not the best state medically. So do take my list with a grain of salt. I mean, I don't think it validates it, but there are more games I wish I could have played. So if you ask, oh, what do you think about this game? Or what do you think about that game? I'm sorry if I cannot exactly say anything about that game because I have no direct opinion on it. And games I have not really finished won't be on this list, although I will mention one that I haven't exactly finished, maybe 2, but I would at least throw honorable mentions to them anyways, because like from what I have played so far, they're fantastic games. Anyways, that being said, let's get to number 5. Coming into the number 5 spot, or should I say, destroying its claim to number 5 spot, it would be none other than Battlefield 6. This game is such a good return to form. I love this game. Although I stopped playing it a little bit throughout, like, over time. Not because I didn't enjoy it, just because I've been busy with other stuff. However, what's there is fantastic. This game is such a good return to form. There's so much I love about this game. The destructive capability of this game, beautiful. Man, seeing all the clips on this game at launch that everyone was playing was beautiful. Actual cinema. This game has so much going for it, between the fast-paced nature to the just destructible capabilities, between all the variety of the gun classes. I think this game is just so fantastic, which makes me question why I feel like that DICE or whoever's making decisions for this game have made some questionable ones at most. And I feel like the way this game has been supported so far is not exactly something I'm a fan of. The Battle Pass was alright. It was okay. There were some things I liked about it, some things I didn't like about it. But overall, the mid-season support, I was just not a big fan of. The first starting map this game got for launch for Season 1, I hate Blackwell Fields. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember. I'll put a screenshot of it in the video. But, like, I just don't like this map. I think it's so vehicle and sniper oriented. I think there's no room for infantry, realistically speaking here. And I'm an infantry player mostly. I don't go with tanks, aircraft. Not my cup of tea, right? But I just don't think this map just flows out well. And the second one they added in with the, I forgot what it's called. I'll also edit in this video as well. It's alright. It's nothing crazy. I just don't like the way this has been supported so far. I feel like, dare I say, I feel like Black Ops 7 has had better support than this game has. And I prefer Battlefield 6 over 7. I do. I think Battlefield 6 is just a way better game, personally, but I still like Black Ops 7, but that's not the point. I just wish that this game would have better support overall, and I hope with Season 2 coming up, I hope they learn that, because if this game wants to last longer, it needs better support. And I'm hoping to see the return of classic Battlefield maps thrown into the loop of Battlefield 6, because there's so much potential for so many good maps, like Operation Metro, Operation Locker, The Siege of Shanghai, just old classic Battlefield maps that I'd love to see return, that we haven't seen return in a while. And I'm not including 2042, because 2042 never existed. We're not going to talk about that game. And one last thing I want to touch on before I get on to the number 4 spot is I love the identity of this game, and I'm not gonna be those people that complain about the cosmetics, but I wish there was more unique cosmetics, if you catch my drift. I said there's a lot of cosmetics I like in the game, and I'm not one to complain about it, because I don't think they're that over the top. Maybe some are, but majority of them, they're not that bad, right? But like, I would want more casual middle slim skins, or just, you know, ones that feel a little bit more grounded, you know what I mean? But it's not that big of a deal, and I hope they keep hanging on to this identity that they have, because I love what they're going for, you know what I mean? That being said, Battlefield 6 is a fantastic and phenomenal multiplayer game, and I hope for years to come this game has such phenomenal support, because what is there is fantastic. I just hope that they don't shoot themselves in the foot like they have with prior Battlefield games in the past. That being said, let's get on to the number 4 spot. Coming in at number 4 is a long-anticipated sequel of mine, something that I waited for a long while for, as whereas many others have, that being Ghost of Yotei. I love the first game. I think the first game is fantastic. Ghost of Tsushima, one of my favorite games of all time, so I had a lot of hopes going into Ghost of Yotei. Was I thinking, was it going to be better? Was it going to be worse? Or was it going to just be in the middle of the road, you know? Well, I'm proud to say that it's better in almost every single way. And I'll get into that in just a moment. But let me get into the positives of Ghost of Yotei and why I love this game so much. The combat. The combat in this game is fantastic, improving upon the original almost in every way. I do love the feeling of the different weapons, although I wish they didn't feel like of the stances of Tsushima, but just a little bit reskinned. I just wish there was more to it. But I still love using the Kurisama or the Adachi, or the dual sword. There's just a feeling to it, you know what I mean? And I love that feeling, especially with the inclusion of guns. Nothing felt better than popping a guy at the end of a duel. Like, it was just so awesome. I love this feeling that you have as Atsu. Just no rails guard, just killing everything and everyone that's getting in your way. Literally out on demon time. I love the feeling of that, and the world is so vibrant and beautiful, improving upon Tsushima. And I just love that it's basically just Tsushima Island, but just a little bit bigger. And there's just so much to the world that I love about it, like I loved about Tsushima. The Tales being the main highlight of exploring the world, and overall just the side quest of it. There are other activities I do enjoy, but nothing that can list at the top of my mind. I'm not saying it's kind of weird, like me saying that, like, oh, if you enjoy them so much, why can't you remember? Well, it's been a while since I played the game, but I enjoyed every second of it, and I did platinum it almost immediately, because I loved the first game, and I love this game as well. There's just so much this game has to offer, but let me just say that there are some negatives. Now, let me get into the negatives. The story. As much as I like the story, I think it's a step down from Tsushima. Jin as the protagonist, I think, is so much more fleshed out than Atsu is, and just the story of the Mongol invasion, I think, is overall a better premise for a story. I said, I still love Yotei, and I love the whole revenge quest going on, but, like, I just feel like by the end, it's just kind of like, whatever. I feel like it was kind of predictable that Atsu was going to be like, okay, I'm not going to let you go. I think I just got to let go of the revenge. That's kind of how revenge stories end up going, you know what I mean? Like the revenge is consuming me, and I have to let it go, or else I might end up taking something that I hold dear to me. Now, before I get on to the next point, let me just preface, there are spoilers here, so you've not played Yotei, you have been warned, so don't go in the comments and be like, there is a spoiler warning. It was right there, I said it! Like, oh my god. Yes. That being said, the ending. I think the ending is... Oh, man, I think the ending is so stupid. Tell me why, at the very end, when you're fighting Lord Saito, Jubei comes back, while Atu is fighting, Lord Saito was like, "We could do this together, sister," and then he just dies. I feel like it was such a one of the most pointless deaths I think I've ever seen. The ending of Yote really just, I feel like, drags the game down a lot. Like, it's still a fantastic game, don't get me wrong. I'd still give it like an 8.5 or 9 out of 10, but like, I just feel like that ending is just not it. And I feel like Lord Saito as an antagonist wasn't nearly as hateable as Khan was in the first game. And I feel like I liked the Oni and the Kitsune more than I did like Lord Saito. And he was the main one. He was supposed to be the overarching big bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The game is fantastic, but I just mostly feel like it's held down by the story. And I love Atsu as a protagonist, but Jin Sakai was something special. I loved Jin Sakai's story. I loved his character. And the Iki Island expansion of Ghost of Tsushima just blended him all too well together at the very end. And I loved that conclusion for Jin Sakai's character. And I love that in Yote they paid tribute to him. I just love that that's there. But the story of Yote could have been better, but it wasn't the worst story. There are definitely worse stories in gaming. I just wish it was more serviceable, and I wish there was more to it. You know what I mean? But that being said, Ghost of Yote is a fantastic game. Don't let this discourage you from getting the game. I think it is such a great sequel. It improves upon the original almost in every way besides the main story and protagonist. That being said, I love Yote. You should try it. You should play it. Pick up in a deal or wherever you're going to get it. That being said, let's hop in a number 3 spot. Before getting to the number 3 spot, let me just say that 3 and 2 are interchangeable. I love these games equally. I think what these games do is fantastic, and I couldn't choose one or the other because I love these games equally that much. However, that being said, going to number 3, it's gotta be Death Stranding 2. I played the first about 2 or 3 months before Death Stranding 2 had released because I saw the trailer for 2 and it interested me, but I was like, I need to play the first one. And I had played the first one a couple times, but I just couldn't get into it. It took a while for me to click. It's one of those acquired tastes of games. You know what I mean? Like, once you get around to it, man, do you get around to Death Stranding. But it took me a while. But once I got into Death Stranding 1, I could not put it down. I love the story, the world building, the characters, just the atmospheric horror of the BTs. I thought it was such an interesting concept, and the Kojima world building is fantastic. With Metal Gear Solid being one of my favorite franchises of all time right next to Halo, I just knew that this game was special. In playing the first one, I loved every bit of it, and going into 2, I had high hopes, and I'm proud to say that 2 is so good. It excels at everything that 1 did, but better. Now, the only thing that I could say that arguably that 1 did maybe a little bit better than 2 was story, but that is like subjective. Like I said, you could prefer the story of 2 or 1, and that's up to you entirely. I love them both. I think I just prefer 1 just a little bit more, but 2 is fantastic, don't get me wrong. Now, what is there to love about 2? Just about everything. The gameplay, more refined. The world is so beautiful and so much more better. I feel like there's so much more to do and go off of. The characters. Man, the characters are fantastic. My favorite characters in the franchise are Higgs and Cliff Unger. Also, shout out to Nirvana. I'm not going to include Sam because Sam was obviously... I'm going to love Sam. He's awesome, but not including him. And characters like Dollman and some other characters I'll get into later, but that's spoiler territory, so I'll touch on that when I get to it. But anyways, another thing that I love about this game, the soundtrack. Fantastic. Oh my god. This game has, I think, the second best soundtrack of the year. I will get into the best soundtrack of this year later on, which you probably already know what it is, but I'm not going to say it just yet. The world building is still just as prominent and fantastic as it was in Death Stranding 1. Then again, that's to be fair with any Kojima game, because Kojima's fantastic at his work. And the world, like I said earlier, is just so beautiful and vibrant. I love the different changes of scenery, where you go from point A to point B. It's just taking in the walk and the scenery that makes moments like these special, and the music just building up together while you travel around. Also, one thing I'll comment on, one of the best features that Death Stranding 2 added that 1 didn't have was the music player. And you might be saying, well, Mr. Wynn, there was a music player in Death Stranding 1. Yeah, it was in the room. You know what I mean? And I wish you could have played it as you're walking around. Maybe you could have, maybe I missed that, but as far as I remember, you couldn't play it outside the room, and nothing kind of more made me upset when playing Death Stranding 1, and then you had this music playing, and it was so beautiful, and just taking the scenery, but you're getting there faster than the song could play, and by the time you got there, it was already over, you're like, man, but like, I'm so glad that this is here. I love that this is here. It's so important to have these music in the moments as you're traveling, because it's kind of like a build-up to getting to point A to point B, you know what I mean? Now that being said, let's get to the last topic of this video, which is story, which there is going to be spoilers, so I will put a timestamp that goes past the spoilers and just my overall final thoughts of Death Stranding 2. But that being said, the story of 2 is fantastic. I loved this story so much. I love the connection of characters, their chemistry, the interesting lore that was going on between these characters, like with Tarman, Rainey, Lou, Dahlman, just overall the new characters that are there. I loved hearing about them and their stories, and so many most powerful scenes in this game. I cannot tell you how many times I cried in this game. This game is so beautiful, and it tugs in your heartstrings, and I love the chemistry that the characters have, and overall, Fracture just trying to help Sam get over the loss of Lou. And that, at the very early game, just like, I don't know, just, it really just warmed my heart to see that chemistry that Sam and Fracture just have together. And Higgs as an antagonist is so hateable, but yet so charismatic, and that's why I love him. And just the way the story flows throughout the game is so just well done. My beautiful, beautiful goat, Die Hardman, coming in last second to clutch up the day to save us from APAS 4000, so we wouldn't be just soul forms trapped in the Chiroverse, since, you know, they wanted to erase our physical form for quote-unquote quotations, making humanity not go extinct. If you say so, man. And this bastard Higgs is still the most diabolical hater, going on just every single warpath to get back at Sam, even going as far as killing Lou at the very beginning, and still trying to start the last string. He's brought to life by Troy Baker. His performance as Higgs is phenomenal, and I find it so weird that the Game Awards, they recognized him as Indiana Jones, but not Higgs, which is one of the best video game roles I've ever seen. And the way the story just ends is so sad but beautiful. It's devastating, but it gives hope to the future of the Death Stranding universe. And I love the scenes in this game. There are 2 in particular that just felt so powerful and just make you feel so much emotion and love for these characters. And they're just so special, and the chemistry that they have with one another just makes you feel something. And it's so hard for a lot of games to just make me feel that way that I feel about this game and its cast of characters. But that being said, we'll go into our number 2 spot. I highly urge you to play this game, for this is one of my favorite games of all time. It has so much character and love and put into this game. I could not recommend this game much more than I already do, so please go and play it. Now let's get into the number 2 spot of this video. You don't know the excitement I felt when this game was announced. As someone who is a massive Dying Light fan since the initial one that released back in 2015, I've loved the Dying Light franchise ever since the first moment I got my hands on that controller and played it myself. The world was just so dark and depressing and not full of hope. Meanwhile, as Dying Light 2 was more or less the opposite, more or less giving hope into the future and the people of this apocalypse. Although I feel like Dying Light 2 was not as good as a sequel as it should have been. I love Dying Light 2, don't be wrong, but Dying Light 1 is better. But you could like Dying Light 2. I'm not saying you can't. I just was a little disappointed when 2 came out after a long wait we had, and it wasn't really all that it was made up to be. But that's okay. Over time, it made itself into a much better game, and I still love 2 from its initial beginning. I stayed with it. I played it over time so much. It's still such a fantastic game. That's why when Dying Light the Beast was announced, I was so stoked. Crane was back. The environment looked beautiful. There was just so much I was excited for. And when I finally got my hands on the game after it had been delayed time and time again, man, can I say, it was worth it. This game is what Dying Light 2 should have been. Crane is finally back. He's fleshed out. There's much more to him. And I love that. The third-person cutscenes give so much more character and so much more of Crane that I just wish we had in the first game. Something so small can make such a big difference. And Roger Craig's performance as Crane is fantastic as always. I love the story of this game. Be or simplistic, I enjoyed it for what it was. The combat, fantastic. I love the combat. I think the combat is better than 2, better than 1, and human combat still just as good as well. And the parkour, also fantastic, but I feel like in Dying Light 2, the parkours were more or less better done well than it was in 2, than it was in The Beast. You know what I mean? I loved Dying Light 2's parkour system. I thought it was fantastic. In the skill tree, there was just much more to go off of, whereas The Beast, I feel like the skill tree could have been better, but it's not that big of a deal. I also kind of just wish there was more of a emphasis on parkour, because I feel like there's some areas that just rely on using the truck, which that's not a bad thing, but I feel like when the game does too much of it, I just wish there was more areas to go off of the parkour. But I know they have to balance this, but I feel like there should have been more areas in the game that relied on parkour in itself. Combat, fantastic. The soundtrack is beautiful. The world of Castor Woods is the most beautiful area in the entirety of the Dying Light franchise. It is just so beautiful to traverse and look at, and it just makes you feel some type of way. And as I said earlier, I enjoyed the story, but it's nothing groundbreaking for a game. But I enjoyed it for what it was. It was simplistic, and I loved it. And the finale of the game, fantastic. Finally taking down the Baron and seeing Aiden from Dying Light 2, man, that was just insane. I thought it was Aiden from the start, that hunter that we were going after. But like, I wasn't sure, but I heard the voice. I was like, that sounds oddly enough like Aiden. And we finally got to it, and man, the glow up this character had is insane. And the way that this finale just blends together in setting up the future of the Dying Light franchise, with the GRE still being alive, and it's still being that same woman from the first game, which was still insane. I don't know, just the way that it just wraps up as a whole just makes me so excited for the future of the Dying Light franchise. Rest in peace, my boy Spike. But that being said, I don't want to make this segment too long because we're getting to the end of the video, but I love Dying Light the Beast. I highly recommend you, if you're a Dying Light fan, pick it up immediately. And if you haven't played prior Dying Light games in the past, you should 100% play them, and you get them on the deal all the time. With all that I have to say about this game, let's get into the final game of this video. Was there any doubt it was going to be Expedition 33? I mean, come on. Anyone who personally knows me knows how much I love this game. It is my second favorite game of all time, right next to Final Fantasy 16, which is ironic because they both include Ben Starr, which Ben Starr is the GOAT, by the way. But that's not the point. This game, Expedition 33, is something special to me. It is art in its purest form. Oh, but it used AI on one area of the game. Yeah, which they traced over. It's not that big of a deal. That's just the problem about buying Unity assets, and I'm not going to go on this big rant. Point is, this game is a work of art and something so special to me. It is a story about escapism and grief, and as someone who's lost people in their lives, some not being prevalent in my life anymore, and some of them not being of this world anymore, it meant a lot to me. I understand a lot of what the characters feel in this world and what they're going through, and it just relates to me onto a personal level, and the world building of this game also puts such an emphasis on that. And I just love the characters. I love the combat. I love the way this game feels. The soundtrack is something that just it's so beautifully orchestrated and just deeply entwines with your soul. It is such a beautiful game, and I hate that this game it's still in the spotlight of getting hate because of the Game Awards. It doesn't matter what game ends up winning Game of the Year. This always happens every year, and this is why I say, people, don't go into the Game Awards with expecting too much, because if you go into expecting too much, you're going to end up being butthurt. That's just how it is. But I still love the Game Awards because I love celebrating games because there's something special to me. But that being said, this game does not deserve the hate that it gets. It is a beautiful game. It is such a beautiful, beautiful game. The combat meanwhile, people might not find it engaging. It does enough to differentiate itself from different turn-based games, and I find it engaging. My favorite RPG and turn-based game of all time was Persona 5 before I played this game. And I love that this game does something different with the turn-based formula. The characters and the performance of these people just feels so human. You feel like you know these characters, you know them, you're getting to know them even more throughout the story progresses. Gustav is just such a down-to-earth character, and as if is everybody else. I'm saying Gustav because he's my favorite character, but like, you just feel for these characters. You want to root for them. You want to see how they progress and how the story progresses. The story being so interesting, the world feels so alive and vibrant. I always found myself so caught up in exploring whatever I possibly could in this game, just because I was like, oh, what's here? What's there? It just was so awesome to explore this world and see how unique each environment was and the distinctive soundtrack that went along with it. It is just a game that will always be special in my heart and that I will always think of when I think of gaming. Because at the end of the day, gaming is what we make it. Gaming is one of those things that art is so subjective to us, and that you may feel different about your 2025 game of the year than I would mine, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with me here. I'm just stating what I enjoy. And that's one thing that's so special about gaming, is that we all have different opinions. While some might be wrong objectively, which I'm not going to get into that, it leaves more room for discussion. But being said, it is such a unique and alive world that I have not seen being replicated in a game in a while. You know what I mean? Like, just how alive it feels and how interesting of a concept this game truly is. This game brought me to tears so many times. This game made me cry most out of any game I've ever played. It's definitely made me cry about like 7 or 8 times. And that is so hard for a game to do to me, because I don't usually cry at games, but this is one of those ones that just, man, it just knows what to do right in terms of the emotional aspect in the characters. It's something you have to experience more than me just talking about. In the final battle with Renoir, and how just cinematic and crazy it was, man, God, what I would do to relive that final battle one last time, and that ending. No matter what it is, it's so devastating, and I was the one to choose Verso. I couldn't bring myself to choose Mael. And even watching the ending to Mael is just so hard for me. I just physically cannot do it. The ending, no matter what, is so devastating. And seeing the characters say goodbye to you after your journey was like one last, like, goodbye. It just, oh, it hurts to think about so much. And it's just an experience, once you start from beginning to end, you'll never forget, because it's just such a beautiful game. I know I keep saying that, but there's no other way to describe it other than the beauty it just holds. But that being said, my final game is Expedition 33. Yeah, baby! But that being said, this is the video is over. I will throw 2 honorable mentions up on screen right now. Some of these games I did not finish, which I still plan on finishing, but I wanted to throw them in there anyways because I'm still halfway through them, and so far I'm really enjoying them, but I don't think they would overtake my list. But that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I really thank you for watching and making this far. And if you did make it this far, and you get a cookie for making it this far. With this video being over, and it being said and done, please comment your top 5 if you feel like doing so. And if you don't, that's okay too. We can talk about games or this and that. But no hate comments, please. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is objective. This is just my opinion. At the end of the day, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.